Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Cloud Gyan. Today we'll be discussing about the Amazon VPC, the it's a subnet, and the route tables, internet gateway, and the NAT gateway. So let's get started. So these are the various topics that we are going to discuss: private network, which is the VPC, and how you're going to connect it to the internet. That's the internet gateway, splitting up the VPC IP addresses among public and the private subnet, and the route tables and the NAT gateway. Very first to VPC, what exactly is the VPC? It's basically a dedicated virtual network associated with a particular AWS account, and this is the place where you are actually going to uh, invoke all your AWS resources that you can have. mm, you can create EC2 instances, you can have your databases, managed services, everything that you can do within the VPC. And just for this knowledge, you can have the 5 VPC per region, and each VPC is logically associated. Let's suppose we have created 2 to 3 VPC in your AWS accounts. So all the three VPC will be virtually completely different. They are not going to have any kind of connection as of now. In case if you want to do, you can do using the VPC peering, but that's the altogether different topic. Regarding the VPC internet gateway, it's logical connections between an Amazon VPC and the internet. And this is internet gateway is actually the entry point to the outside world to the VPC. You have to attach that VPC to the attach this internet gateway to the VPC. And whenever you are creating any EC2 instances, you'll be getting the public IP to access the internet. You can have only one internet gateway per VPC. The subnet is basically the splitting up the VPC IP into different ranges. So if you create two subnets, in case of the first subnet, first 4 IP addresses and the last IP address of every subnet is reserved, and that is used for internal networking by the AWS. Subnet can be classified as a public and the private. Public subnet is something which is exposed to the outside world via internet gateway. Regarding the VPC route tables, it's a logical construct that contains a set of rules that is called as routes that are applied to the subnets and used to determine where the network traffic is being directed. So by default, VPC automatically comes up with the main route tables. You cannot delete that because this is something which comes as a default. Each subnet must be associated with the route table. In case you are not associating the subnet, that particular subnet will use the main route table, which is the default one. Regarding the NAT gateway, uh, whatever the EC2 instances that you create within a subnet, which is the private subnet, it only have the private IP, and it will not be exposed to the internet. But yes, there is a certain situations where you need to have this internet connectivity to those instances. Like those instances may need to download some patches, some kind of other activity. So this is where you need to have the internet connectivity to those instances in the private subnet. The only way is you have to attach a NAT gateway, which is a managed service. This is where you can get the access to the internet. Okay. So as part of the demo, what we'll be doing, we'll create a VPC, and the VPC will create as a 10.192.0.0/26. So if we give this particular conventions, you'll see that you can determine how many IP addresses that can be created. Actually, the IP addresses is 2 raised to power 32 minus whatever the number that you have sent us. after slash 26 in this case. So it will create 2 to raised to power 6, which is the 64 IP addresses. Start IP address will be this 10.192.0.0, and the last one will be the 63. So and after that we'll create two subnet, one subnet with this and another subnet with this. So we'll be creating two subnets. We'll create one VPC, we'll create two subnet, and after that we'll create a internet gateway which will be used to connect to the internet. We'll attach to the VPC, create a route table, then we'll create public route table. Then we'll do a couple of more things like modify auto assign IP settings for the public subnets. We'll create NAT gateway. We'll create another route tables for the NAT gateway. So we'll launch Windows EC2 instances in both the public and the private subnets. So let's take a demo of all the things that we have discussed so far. I'll be going to the AWS Management Console. So I'll see it's the VPC. So we'll follow the steps that's there. We'll, we'll create one VPC. Oops, not this one. Sorry. Okay, now let's create the VPC. We'll name it as a VPC Cloud CAN cider block. I'll be putting as this thing. So it will create 26, 64. Okay, so this one is created. Now let's go to the subnet. Create a subnet. We'll mark it as the VPC Cloud CAN subnet public. We'll create the public subnet first. Name as the public. Sorry, this just select the VPC, and this is the cider block. We'll select a particular availability zone. This is the first availability zone that we have selected. So we'll create another one. CAN. We'll mark it as a private, and we'll choose the cider block from here. This one is hide create. Now, now you can see that we have created two subnet, one as a public and another one as a private. If you look at the number of IP addresses, it says 27. But if you look at the cider block, it should create 32. But as I mentioned earlier, that the first four IP address and the last one IP address is being kept reserved by the AWS for its internal networking purpose. Got it? So we have created the subnet. Now create an internet gateway. Now go to the internet gateway. I'll create the one IGW Cloud CAN. Now I will attach this to my VPC. Now, so far we have done create a route table, attach IGW to route table. Now we'll go to the root table. As I said, by default, there is one root table is created by the VPC. It's the RT. Let's make it as a main default. Now I'll create a new. I'll mark it as a public. Select it, this, and I'll create another root table, private, create this. As I said, for this public root table, we'll attach it to the subnet which we have created as a public subnet. Now, so we'll added this. We'll add one more rule, which will be actually using the internet gateway. Now, this root table we have made it as a public, and we have attached a internet gateway so that whenever whatever the subnet that we are going to assign it to should be able to connect to the internet. So I'll mark this as private, this public one. That means whatever EC2 instances we are going to mm, uh, invoke within this subnet, that particular EC2 instance should be accessible from outside. So for that, that's one thing that we have done. One additional thing that we have to do is we'll go to the private one. So far, we'll just attach the private subnet to this. Right. So far, we are done with these steps. Go to modify auto assign IP settings for the public subnet. We'll go to the public subnet. We'll select it, modify auto assign this to this. This is required because if you create any EC2 instance within this public subnet, that particular instance will get automatically public IP assigned to it. In case you do not check it, it will not be able to create or generate public IP for that particular instance, which you are going to invoke within the public. So that's the thing that we are done. Create NAT gateway in public subnet, another route table, attach NAT gateway. Okay, now go to the NAT gateway. We'll create a NAT gateway. And we need to have one elastic IP. Just allocate one elastic IP to it. Create a NAT gateway. You'll see that it's still in pending, but it should be able to get completed. So far, we are done with most of the steps. Now let's go and connect, create some EC2 instance. Launch EC2 instance. I'll go with creating one Windows EC2 instance. Here, I'll create the EC2 instance in the public subnet so that I'm able to do the RDP. Here you see that auto assign public. Since at the time of creating that particular public subnet, what we have done, we have modified the auto assign IP. So it will directly inherit it from the subnet itself. We don't have to explicitly enable it or disable it. Just use this subnet setting, which is the enable. Okay, so rest of the things will keep it a default. We just have to just enable the, just launch this. I've already these things created, so still we'll create another instance with the Unix, and we'll create that in the private subnet. We are not going to create in the public subnet. We'll create rest of the configurations as default and launch it. So now I'm having uh, one EC2 instance, which is public EC2. Another one is a private EC2. Okay. So if you look at the difference between these two, look at the public one. Now this public one is having one IP, public IP address assigned, but this particular the one which we have initiated in the private subnet, that doesn't have any public IP. That means we will not be able to connect it using RDP or SSH or outside the VPC. So we'll first connect this one. May take some time to get the password generated. So okay, I have that key with me. Decrypt the password. I have this, copied it, and again go to the RDP. Now we should be able to get into this. All right, so we are into the one EC2 instance that we have created in the public subnet. So we'll see whether we are able to connect to the internet. For sure, we should be able, because we have created in the public subnet, and that public subnet is having the internet gateway attached to it. So let's open the command prompt. It's fine. Just leave it. Yeah. Okay. So if you do, yeah, you can see that we are getting the reply from this. That means this particular instance is it's connected to the internet. So now what we'll do, we'll go to this file explorer. We'll get by this PEM file and paste it into the C drive of this. I copied it. Now I'll try to connect to the I'll do the SSH to the EC2 instance that we have created in the private subnet, and we'll see whether we are able to connect to the internet or not, whether it's accessible or not. So we'll do ssh ec2 user at the rate, and we need to have the IP private IP address of this, and I and once you click at the enter, you'll get some error message. Let's see what is that error message. The error message is saying unprotected private key file. That means we don't have the proper permission. If we are into the Unix, we can directly do the ch mode and give the required permission. But since we are into the Windows, you have to go to this particular key. Just click on the properties, go to the securities, advanced, disable this thing, remove all inheritance, add, select a principal, and is a since I've logged in as an administrator, I'll give the full control, do the apply. Okay. So I have given the permission to this codegan.pem file. Now I should be able to now. Now let's see whether this particular instance, which is in the private subnet, are we able to connect to the internet or not? We will not be able to do that. I'll tell you why. Okay. So this is we are not able to connect it. Now let's see why. Because the we the subnet that we have created, the private subnet, if we take a look at the private subnet, it doesn't have any the gateway NAT doesn't have any entry to the NAT gateway. So we'll attach the root tables which we have created, which was the private. Here you will see it doesn't have any NAT gateway. What I'll do, I'll add a NAT gateway 0 will be NAT gateway. I'll attach it. Now I'm having this NAT gateway, and I have already this subnet, private subnet attached to it. That means now earlier there was no way that any instance which we have defined in the private subnet should be able to connect it because it does not have any NAT gateway attached to it. Now we have attached NAT gateway to it. Now it should be able to connect to the internet. Here you go. So, so hope this is clear. So far we talked about the VPC, the subnet, private and public subnet. We talked about the route tables. We talked about the internet gateway, and we talked about the NAT gateway. Public subnet and the private subnet. The only difference is that by default all the subnets are the private, but once you attach an internet gateway to the to any private subnet, it becomes a public subnet. So, and in case of the private subnet, if we want to have the internet connectivity, we have to use NAT gateways, because if we attach to the internet gateway, it will become a public and it will be accessible publicly. So via private IP, if you want to access the internet, we have to use the NAT gateway. Sorry. So that was the demo part. So let's take a recap of some important points. Sometimes it is being asked in the exam of the associate and the developer level also. So you, we can have at least we can have 5 VPC per region. AWS resource reserves the first 4 IP address and the last IP address of every subnet for internal networking purpose. one subnet equals to one availability zone, but you can have multiple subnets in one availability zone. There is a main route table attached to the VPC and cannot be removed. And the last one is the one internet gateway per VPC. That means we can have only one internet gateway for a particular VPC. So, so guys, that's it for now. I hope uh, you are able to understand the various topics that we have discussed. So, if you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel, Cloud Gyan. Thank you very much.